Welcome to GTT Live, Episode 4, Subsonic 556's Best 556. My name is Rich, and as always, I'm your fat, bearded host, and with me, as always, is my chubby buddy, OmniFox. Just to warn everybody, this is an uncensored show. Tonight especially, you're going to hear a lot of cuss words. So if that bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. If you want to join in the conversation, just click on the little Q&A app at the bottom left of your screen right now, and you can ask us questions. You can, using hashtag GTT Live on Twitter, you can interact with us and ask us questions. You can ask us questions in IRC. Omni's got that part covered. We do have a guest tonight, and it's a really cool guest, so I hope we do get some questions from the audience about him. Omni, you got anything you want to say?
Other than titties are the best.
What are you drinking tonight?
Actually, we're going to go with an Otis Stout.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, where's my magazine? I don't have my trusty Makarov sitting at my desk. So I need something long and hard to open my bottle.
Tonight we're going to talk about that cunt Jan Morgan. We're going to talk about the Gun It Thread of the Week. We're going to talk about the runner-up to the Gun It Thread of the Week. But first we're going to start out with our friend Mike from the Specialist Ltd. They are a prop house in New York City, and they have offices elsewhere. They are big suppliers of firearms and firearms-related stuff to the television and movie industry.
And you can yell at him for some tropes.
Yes, you can totally yell at him for some tropes. They do a lot of stuff. They do a lot of improvised explosives devices. Oh, also, I feel the need to mention that tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gold Bond Medicated Ball Powder. If you have balls and they need powder, then Gold Bond Medicated Ball Powder is the ball powder for you.
We're closed captioning this evening by Desitin Creamy. Dude, once that heat rash starts, the Desitin Creamy. Oh.
All right. We're going to try and we're going to certainly try and minimize the testicle talk tonight. The last week was a lot of ball talk. So, Mike from the Specialist, say hi, man.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
There's at least 5 balls here, so.
At least 5. I want to make it known that we are popping Mike's podcast cherry tonight. I actually scooped We Like Shooting. That makes me feel very, very good. And I expect that after tonight's show, he's going to get a lot of requests to be on other people's shows.
Wait, you scooped?
Yeah, I talked to him about this months ago, dude.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It's been a while.
We scooped, you dumb son of a bitch.
I'm sorry. We scooped We Like Shooting.
I was just sitting there waiting for you to, at least acknowledge that the other fatness exists in this game.
Anyway, Mike, dude, tell us. You have a fucking cool job, man. So just tell us about it.
I mean, I do so much shit. I don't really know where to begin. I guess the first and foremost, what I should say is we started out as a weapons company. Basically, the president of the company was huge into guns. He grew up around guns. He grew up shooting all his life. And basically, he aspired to be an actor, so he moved to New York City. And once he got here, he realized he was a terrible actor. So, that obviously wasn't going to work out. But he also realized that people in the movie industry are stupid, especially when it comes to guns. And they didn't know shit. And they basically had no one to turn to. So at that point, this was, 1981, 1982. He decided that he was going to go full-time into providing guns and armoring services for the movie industry. And that's kind of where it all began. He just started, amassing a collection, opening FFLs and stuff like that, and providing rentals to movies, when they wanted gunfire, and making sure that they were used properly and safely on set. And he basically did that for roughly, I guess, almost 25 years, basically himself. And then his son, Ryder, who is the vice president of our company, graduated college and decided to stay within the family business, and he expanded it by basically opening us up to fabrication and basically turning us into a full-fledged prop house where not only do we do weapons, which are still our primary source of income and business, but also into a fabrication house and a full prop house where we offer everything from, badges, handcuffs, all that good bullshit that you see in movies, that people could come and they could rent from us. So,
what is it like to work for a company that provides the implements of death and destruction to an industry that fucking hates them, but they need you? Otherwise, there wouldn't be,
right,
television as we know it. What is that like?
It sucks, and it's great at the same time. Obviously it has pros and cons, just like doing this type of work in New York City. It has pros and it has cons. On the pro side, we get to play with stuff that most people otherwise wouldn't get to unless, in very special circumstances. But on the other end, you have to deal with less intelligent people on a pretty consistent basis who really not only have no knowledge of guns, but they also have no interest in guns. They kind of despise them. So in some capacities, you get looked down on a lot, and people kind of think you're a little crazy maybe, but that's not necessarily any different than anybody else, in the country where...
To be fair, that's like every job ever.
Well, that's true.
That's true, but I think, but for you at least, if somebody says to you, oh, guns are terrible, you can tell them to fuck right off. But I have to be like, oh yeah, I totally agree. Guns are horrible. Guns are horrible. They kill people, and I don't support that. You got to show a little bit of respect because, essentially, when I'm put out as an armorer, I'm working for that company. I work for the specialist, yes, but when I get hired on as an armorer, I'm also working for the production company that is putting on that that show or whatever. So
you're actually on set.
Correct. I do armoring as well as fabrication. Okay. Yeah. Well,
from your Facebook page, I can also tell I can tell you like cosplaying, and if people look at you weird, it's because of that. It's not because of your job.
I don't know what you saw on my Facebook page, but there's no cosplaying going on. Everything you see is real. So the chicken suits, all that. That's just me.
Insert yiffing joke here. Moving on. Come on, you fuckers. Ask this man some questions.
Yeah, no one in everybody's in IRC's like, who's that? Who's the hipster? Who's the guy with the tats exposed? Blah, 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 blah. And I go, it's Jug Bleach. And they go, oh, what? Who's that? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, Monochromatic just showed up, so maybe we'll get some good questions out of him.
Mike, explain if you can, the difference between like for instance, I'm a 1911 guy, so explain the difference between my carry gun, my 1911 that I carry every day, and a prop 1911.
It really depends on where you want to go with prop. I guess I'll just kind of explain the full spectrum. You have blank firing, you have replica, and you have soft foam. I'm stupid. I should have grabbed some foam guns. Okay,
when I say prop, I want...
You want to go blank firing.
Blank firing, yeah.
Okay. Why don't I do... a Glock is easier, but...
Sure.
Because I can demonstrate the difference, that much easier. You know what? Even I have here... I have a SIG 226 Elite. We actually converted today. So this... Obviously, for most people who don't know, and everyone probably does, this is a SIG 226 Elite. This was converted today to shoot blanks.
Is not working. Does that have the restrictor in the barrel?
Yes. So, well, actually, I don't know. Let me just check the chamber. No, this has...
Oh my God! You're pointing it at your face.
Yeah. God damn it.
Four rules.
So pointing guns at my face is a daily situation, and it's one that people tend not to understand. But when I have to, I should probably explain how blank guns work. But before I do that, basically you have to screw something into the barrel, and I need to check the hole size that is inside that screw at any given time. So I point these things at my fucking face, on a constant basis. But anyway, so to convert a gun to blanks, not only do you have to restrict the barrel because you're lacking the bullet when you're firing it, so you have to create that back pressure to cycle the action, but we also actually defeat the lockup on the gun to make sure that it's significantly easier for the slide to gain the momentum it needs to do what it needs to do. So
you just shave down the locking lugs.
sort of. It depends on the gun. So for this gun in particular, you do a couple of modifications.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead.
That does it. If a blank firing gun actually had real ammo loaded into it, then since you're defeating lockup, you could actually have an out of battery with that.
Technically, yes, you could, but at the end, in the other side of it, you would obviously have the gun blow up within itself just because there's a restrictor welded into the plug. So basically, I'll demonstrate it on a SIG, on a Glock at first. So if you notice on the Glock, it's completely level across the top. That's because on a Glock barrel, I'm gonna have trouble probably autofocusing and whatever. You can see this 90-degree cut right here. So that's the lockup on a Glock. And what that basically does is when the gun is into battery, it locks up the slide from moving. And if I push down on this slide right here, you're not going to get any movement, basically. On a blank gun, that's not true because we take the feed ramp, we take the locking lug and you basically mill it away completely. You can see how this angle has been milled here and here and here. So if I put this SIG back together, which I'll do real quickly.
While you're doing that, so you're taking actual functioning firearms from a manufacturer and rendering them inoperable for live ammunition.
Correct. Well, I mean, they're not completely inoperable because it can still chamber a live round, but we just need to be careful, obviously, to make sure that never happens. But it cannot shoot a live round out the front of the gun, but technically it could chamber it.
So what I'm saying though is that you're not actually
Correct. We're not manufacturing a brand new gun from scratch or anything like that. Like, it's not a fake gun. It is a real gun. Even when it's blank converted, according to the ATF, it is a firearm. So it has to be treated as such.
So, where do you guys source most of your guns? Like, is it mostly SIG going, hey, feature our guns?
Basically, I mean, essentially, it's us reaching out to a manufacturer or the manufacturer reaching out to us and us saying, yeah, so we do all these large productions. It's basically free advertising. Give us a couple of free guns. We'll convert them and we will get them on these shows. We will push for them. We will push for you, and we will get your guns seen by millions of people. Like the Blacklist or Person of Interest when it was still super popular. All those shows, all those manufacturers want their firearms on those shows and getting notoriety from them. So.
Did you guys provide the wooden gun that Will Ferrell used in The Other Guy?
Yeah, we did.
Seriously, you did?
Yeah,
I fucking love that movie, man. I'm a peacock, goddammit, I need to fly!
My coworker Ryan built that gun. He basically just took a piece of scrap wood from our wood shop,
That's awesome.
went in with the belt sander, and spent 15 minutes or whatever knocking it out. And it's hilarious. People have to
awesome. Go home and somebody just didn't go home and get their kids' toy.
No, it's much more complicated and much more expensive than that. I mean, that's the other thing about all this. All the fabrication we do, it's great, but sometimes you make the stupidest things and they end up costing, a ton of money because it's a business after all. We're in it to make money. So, fabrication's not cheap. But anyway, let me go back to this real quick. Sorry, I know I'm all over the place. So, you can see if this was a normal gun and I push down this barrel, this slide is not going to budge. But as you can see, as I'm pushing down, that lockup is defeated. The whole slide is just basically a straight blowback gun at that point. So not only do you have to mill the barrel on this, but you actually open up in the front of the slide where the barrel is just to give it some play up and down. And you also open up the ejection port in the front because I didn't even grab any blanks. But basically, our blanks are crimped like a flower on the top. And as they're shot, they just flower open like this to release the pressure. And because of that extra length, when the bullet disappears, you got your cartridge.
Travel.
Yeah, exactly. You need more length for the ejection to work properly.
For viewers at home, probably the best explanation would be birdshot 22 or the domed over 22. rat shot or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a perfect example because that uses the same exact kind of crimp that we use on our blanks.
How in the barrel where you're plugging it, how far down the barrel is it plugged?
So
And
I
there's
can
a reason
actually.
there's a reason for the question.
Yeah, no problem. Let me.
While you're taking that apart, the other thing is, I'm assuming the mill out is CGI'd out on a good production show.
No, I don't think I've ever once seen.
I guess I've never looked at the lockup
Do
close enough.
you guys even just spray a coat of Krylon on it so it matches?
No, I mean this is going to stay.
I'm now going to have to look at that in every game or every.
You're going to see it, and Glocks are the most obvious for whatever reason. They're pretty easy to see, just because sometimes some guns have a little contouring on the barrels, but the Glock is just so smooth over the top that it's like glaringly obvious, and you're going to see it now in every production if you look for it.
Nobody ever thought to go down to the Ace Hardware and buy a can of black spray paint?
Well, it'd wear off so quick.
It's not even like that because it's like the bottom line in terms of Hollywood productions is that not only do the people making the movies, editing the movies, and all that not know about guns and not really care, but they kind of assume that the average American doesn't either. They assume that the average American just wants to watch an action movie and that they're going to enjoy it no matter what, and that they're not going to notice these little differences from the real world that a gun enthusiast like you might. So they're not worried about it,
And they're frankly right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you go on Reddit and people complain about the hammer cocking noises with Glocks and any kind of shit like that, and they just don't care because to some people that noise should be there on a Glock, and that's how they know that the gun is about to be fired or the gun is getting loaded or whatever it may be, because they're uninformed. And I guess the bottom line is, even if Hollywood did know that was incorrect, they kind of probably do want to leave it there just as a baseline to ensure that those uninformed people are also being cued into things like that, I guess. I don't know. Believe me, I think it's as stupid as anybody else that is has some firearms knowledge, but there's really nothing.
I'm going to notice that now, and that bothers me.
It should bother you, but there's little I can do about it. So let me show you this to go back to it. Right around here is the middle of the weld. So basically, we tap the barrel, you screw the plug down into it, we drill into the side roughly right here. And once the set screw is put in, we just weld over it and then repolish it. So that's why you can see the bluing is all missing from this whole portion just from polishing over the weld.
Okay, so the blank ammunition you provide, is it manufactured in-house as well?
It is not. Our blank ammunition is manufactured in Arizona. We do some in-house, but for the most part, there's kind of one guy who takes care of most things.
The reason I ask is what do you use inside the crimp, of your blanks to keep the powder in check? Do you use some sort of a shot cup or a wax plug or a paper disc or something like that?
There's nothing. It's loose on the inside basically.
Okay.
In terms of the only one that uses something is shotgun blanks.
Right.
Instead of being crimped closed like a traditional shell would be, they're actually just completely open. And there is one piece of cardboard, just basically a cardboard shim put inside that has the load strength written on it, so you can look inside the shell and know what you're loading into the shotgun. That is the only load.
Most people don't realize that the blanks are actually a hell of a lot more powder than you would put in a regular shell.
The reason I was asking was, as far as where the weld was or where the barrel was plugged at, was if you had some sort of shot cup or something like that inside the blank shell. How would you deal with shooting an extended gunfight scene or something like that, where that barrel starts filling up with
wads and
yeah, exactly. So that's just one of those things that, as an ammo guy, I was kind of curious about.
Yeah, no. So within the crimp is just the powder, and just a real quick overview of how blanks work. Blanks come in different load strengths. So you have full load, which you have full load, half load, quarter load, and what's known as solid plug. So in a solid plug gun, instead of having a hole through the plug that's inside the muzzle, it's literally a solid set screw on the inside. So nothing comes out of the muzzle in terms of flash or gas or anything like that.
That's all CGI?
Yeah, so they do that post in CGI.
Gotcha.
And, you know, those are great for things like execution scenes, or, you know, where you want to put the gun literally to the back of their head, or where you're shooting inside of a car and they need to shoot, you know, 1 or 2 feet apart or something like that, where you just can't use any other load strength because of how dangerous it is. You know, so basically those blanks are filled with the absolute minimum amount of powder that would be needed to cycle the action of the gun with the solid plug inside the barrel.
Noise level. How's the noise level?
On a solid plug, or I'll just go through the whole gamut. Well, basically what I was getting at was a full load blank actually is more powerful and louder than a real live ammunition being shot through the gun. You know, because basically, again, it's Hollywood, so they're looking for the, you know, they're looking for production value, so they're looking for the biggest flash that they can possibly get out of the gun.
Right.
So that's why they overload the powder and whatever. Plus, it's just good for the gun to cycle properly because you're lacking the bullet and you're kind of fudging it a little bit in that respect. So a full load blank is incredibly loud. It's like, you know, it's worse than it would be if you were shooting live ammunition without hearing protection.
If I remember right, that's what they used in Heat.
What's that?
The full load blanks.
Yeah, I mean,
and the actors ended up with severe permanent hearing damage.
Oh, during the bank robbery scene close to the end there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because that shit was loud.
Yeah, I mean, they're incredibly loud. I'm surprised that they wouldn't have had the actors wearing, you know, like the foam earplugs, because a lot of times they'll cut them short, they'll roll them, and then they'll scenic them to, you know, with concealer or something like that, so you can't see them inside their ears. But
speaking of something like that, while we're on the subject, how do you deal with stuff like carbines or something like that? Where, I mean, you know, for those of you guys who are in the service, you're familiar with what's called blank adapters. Okay, when we go out with Miles gear or whatever, and yeah, there's a blank adapter that screws right onto the muzzle device on your carbine, and that's what allows you to fire blanks and for the gun to cycle properly, because it essentially plugs the barrel to let the gas run down the gas tube, so on and so forth. How do you get like an M4 or something like that to cycle right without a blank adapter on the end? Are those barrels also welded?
no, because basically any gun that we don't have to convert. So for pistols, it is New York City law that the plug inside of the pistol has to be welded into the barrel. That's to prevent it from, you know, just being the barrel being swapped and becoming a live gun again. There is no such regulation for shotguns and rifles inside New York. So anything we can do to not modify the gun is, you know, we're going to go and do that. So essentially for a rifle like that, what we do is instead of tapping the barrel, we tap the muzzle device itself. So I actually have an MP7 right here. This is a fully automatic firearm. And we had to basically blank adapt this, but as you might...
Everybody just spurred, by the way. just saying.
Yeah, I mean...
this is an MP7.
Dude, I wish I could take this webcam with me and show you the vaults and stuff like that, because it's just the amount of cool shit that we have like this is just astronomical. I mean, we also do military exercises, training like insurgency exercises with the National Guard. So for that, they take civilians or whomever, and they give them AKs that are blank adapted. And then they also put a pretty high-tech, like, basically laser tag system on all the guns. And they play giant blank firing games of laser tag out in the woods in, like, Wisconsin and Virginia and shit, and it's pretty cool. And because of that, we have, like, you know, 600 AK-47s sitting in one vault and, you know, 50 RPKs, 50 RPDs. It's just, like, it's just insane. And we're just out of space. Like, there is no space for guns anymore, you know. But
I have a feeling that we're going to hear from our New York residents, oh, I've got space in my safe.
So basically, as you might imagine, the MP7 is kind of a rare gun in the U.S.
Just a little.
We're fortunate to have quite a few of them, but because it's such a rare gun, its parts are really hard to find. So when it came to blank firing this, adapting this, we couldn't just grab a bunch of extra flash hiders and tap them because they're expensive and they're hard to find. So we had to come up with a clever way of blanking it. So like you were asking for an M4, this is obviously a 5.56 muzzle device.
And you're hiding it behind a mock suppressor. That's nice.
Yes. So the production who was using this actually asked for a suppressed firearm as well. So these guns were sent to us with real B&T HK cans, but we couldn't use them because we needed to figure out a way to blank adapt the gun. So if you can see through that, you can see how small the hole through there is. Right. So what we've done is we've tapped into this, and the plug gets screwed into this instead of into the gun. And once this is on the gun, it acts the same as if it was in the barrel, but the gun is completely unmodified. You just take this off, put on a regular muzzle brake again, and you've got your live gun again.
Didn't you say earlier that you recut that barrel?
Yes, so that's what I was going to show you right now, is that the way that we were able to take a 5.56 muzzle brake and fit it onto, a 4.6 gun was we took a surplus AR-15 barrel and we chopped it off right at the end, about, half an inch behind where the threading would be. And I don't know if I can unscrew this just because it's insane. No, it's way too on there. But basically what we did is then we tapped the back of it to the 4.6 thread count and screwed it directly on and just used it as an adapter to fit the 5.56 muzzle brake onto the end. And so once we had that, then not only do we have a fully blanked firearm, but we had one that could take this inert dummy can. There's no baffles inside this. It's just solid. It's not NFA. So that way when we take this gun out, yeah, it's a machine gun, but we only have a one stamp, thing instead of two stamps at once. So, now it's a quick detach, suppressed, blanked MP7 with very little work and no modification to the gun itself.
That's pretty fucking neat.
Yeah.
That actually leads into one of our YouTube questions of, is the gun completely fucked or can it be made to fire again? That's a perfect example right there.
Yeah, that is a perfect example. And
I suppose the same is true for the handguns too. The Glocks, you just throw another Glock barrel in it, and it's a functional firearm again.
Correct.
Don't let New York find that out.
I mean, we take for the pistols because there are such stringent laws and we have to weld in the plug. There is also another law that requires us to defeat the takedown as well. So we defeat the lockup and we defeat the takedown. I use that word a lot. And what that basically means is we have to modify the gun so that a regular person could not figure out how to take the gun apart and just swap the barrels. I will not go into how we do that on various guns.
Trade secret.
It's a secret, exactly. But we do take that measure because they take that shit very seriously, and if a gun is stolen, they do not want it to be switched back to a live firing gun.
Obviously.
But it can be done. The barrel just needs to be swapped, and of course, they're a little bit fucked because you've opened the ejection port, but it's not going to do anything negative in terms of live fire. It's just going to fucking look kind of ugly,
Right. Darth wants to know what the coolest gun is in your opinion in your warehouse and why.
Oh shit.
Your website says you have like 10,000 firearms in the vault.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
I had already told Darth asked and answered because he had walked away from his desk just to fuck with him.
Oh no!
Why'd you have to go ahead and bring it back up?
Because I'm trying to get some audience participation. Also, because fuck you. That's why.
I personally really like. An MP5K is one of my favorite guns. I just think they look fantastic. They run well, whatever. So I would say probably an MP5K inside the H&K MP5K briefcase, the AOW briefcase. That's pretty damn cool. You know, being able to walk down the street and...
I've actually got to shoot one of those, and it's actually pretty fucking neat. You feel...
I mean, I haven't been able to shoot one. I could only imagine how impossible it is to hit fucking anything.
So you said you're an armorer, so you actually go on set and stuff. So what's the procedure for that? I'm assuming that you're listed as an RP on the FFL.
Yes, so I am an RP of the FFL. So when I take out guns, they are basically, you know, they are in my possession and they are my responsibility while they are away from the FFL. So anything that might happen with them is on me. Productions are able to rent certain guns if they hold a special theatrical weapons permit. Once a prop master has one of those, they can rent certain guns from us. Nothing, you know, nothing fully auto, obviously, nothing like that, nothing NFA. And, you know, before they were fine with renting semi-auto, you know, non-NFA M4, M16, stuff like that. Or sorry, AR-15s, I should say. But whatever. After, I guess, you know, maybe it was Sandy Hook, one of the firearms-related tragedies, you know, things got a little more stringent. It was probably the SAFE Act. You know, they can no longer do that. So anything that they term an assault weapon can no longer be rented by them and has to go out with an armor.
So anything like, you know,
anything
a Henry Golden Boy with it takes more than 7 rounds.
I mean,
I'm just joking. I'm being
honestly, I don't. You know, I know, but it's like it's stupid because there are certain guns that do have quote unquote assault features. You know, like a pistol grip or a threaded muzzle or whatever it may be, that are so innocuous it's not even funny, but they potentially are restricted from being rented now. I don't handle that shit. I just kind of take out whatever they tell me is going on set with me for that day. So I don't know exactly what they can and can't take. But
I don't know if we can, if you want to discuss the red-yellow stuff as far as card goes. I don't want to get too specific. If you want to bring that up, that's fine.
I mean, it's all pretty common knowledge. It's like basically, you know, a yellow concealed carry permit is allotted to people who work in, you know, in an industry like this, or maybe they carry large sums of money for, you know, the jewelry district or anything like that. You know, they can be issued a yellow permit, which means essentially you are given specific times that are actually printed directly on the license on the back, during which are, you know, those are your business hours, and during those times, if you are working, you can carry a concealed handgun. It's not any concealed handgun. It's actually a specific handgun that is also put on the license by serial, make and model, and all that kind of stuff.
Is there just one?
No, I think you can have up to 3. It's at least 2, and I think it's 3 different ones.
Well, how would that yellow license apply to you? It would seem to me that you would have some pretty odd times when you would be, if you're on set as an armorer. You know, if you're on set in the middle of the night, but your permit says, you know, because New York is so awesome that, you know, you're only allowed to carry between 9 and 5 on weekdays and not including holidays and so on and so forth. How does that work for you?
So essentially for us, and you know, the other side to the red-yellow is the red, which is an unrestricted carry license, which is what, you know, most people throughout the country are given. You know, they don't have a restriction on their carry.
Are deemed okay to have.
You are deemed worthy of carrying a handgun because you're not crazy, so carry it whenever the fuck you want. A red is essentially the equivalent of that, and many of the employees here do carry red cards, so they are unrestricted in that respect. For those people who do have a yellow card, what normally ends up happening is once they've kind of proven themselves, they're given what you might call a probationary period during which their times are limited to maybe 3 days a week or something like that. But basically, you're given a midnight to midnight time frame during which you are, you know, it's basically like a 24-hour thing for X number of days. And eventually you have 6 days a week where you're just 24/7 allowed to carry. So it's just kind of a skirt around.
Escalating
basically.
scale.
Yeah.
I think, making sure that you're not going, out in front of the new tower and shooting up the place.
Yeah.
Well, that and the fact that you guys do replica badges and all kinds of other shit. So theoretically speaking, one of your employees could get a wild hair up his ass, and all of a sudden he's rocking, a fucking full NYPD uniform and just generally showing his ass.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We don't do uniforms, but it's not like they know that, so that doesn't factor in. They probably do think we could be a complete cop, but we do have badges. So if I wanted to just flash a badge and look like an undercover cop, absolutely, I could do that. There's nothing stopping me, but except for common sense, that's a terrible idea.
Common sense and federal pound me in the ass prison.
Yes, absolutely.
Savage 1R says you may have scooped us, but in our defense, we didn't know there were any guns in New York.
Fair enough.
There are significantly more guns in New York than you ever could have imagined.
Yeah, I mean, I found out about you guys through there was an article online somewhere, and
one point on the internet.
Yeah, it seems like basically every 6 months or so, one of the major news agencies, New York Times, whatever, will all of a sudden stumble upon us and go, hey, it would be a great idea to do an article on this company. They're kind of unique, and we'll be in a newspaper or a magazine or an online article somewhere. So, there's tons of them floating around.
Secret underground armory of New York City.
I don't know if you're...
I believe that was one of the articles.
It was. I was going to say, I don't know if you just made that up on the fly, but that is almost literally the name of one of the articles that is...
I remember that one, but I didn't think of that until after I said it. Just saying.
Well, good memory then, because I mean, so we get all kinds of crazy shit like that. Yeah.
Well, that's actually kind of a cool thing, and probably makes living in New York not hell.
It does. I mean, it sucks because it's like you have all these toys in front of you, and I can't just go out and shoot them. I don't have a range. So it's like, it's great. I get to play with all these guns. I get to see how they work. I get to do what other people can't, but I don't get to fully enjoy them like most people imagine I probably do. But it's still awesome. I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything. It's amazing. And eventually,
you guys have offices and facilities in other states anyway, right? So
we do. It's just a pain in the ass, just because transporting and all that kind of crazy bullshit. So, but
we've got
yes.
Couple of questions from the IRCs.
Sure.
Why do I look green? Well, somebody just popped. Fuck you, monkey. It's because I just ran here to get on. Literally, I was late and throwing on my headset as I got here. So, monkey, shut the fuck up. The other question was, how much ammo, blanks, I'm assuming, does a movie set use during a shooting-styled movie?
I mean, let me think of a movie we've done recently that has...
Can you name something that would be kind of firearm-centric that you guys provided firearms and ammo for, to kind of give us some context?
Jack Reacher was a pretty good one. There wasn't a ton of shooting in it, but there was a good amount.
That was a terrible movie.
Really? I liked it. I thought it was sweet.
Terrible movie. The books are great for like a pulp fiction kind of thing, but
right.
Tom Cruise is Jack Reacher. If you read the books, Jack Reacher's like 6'5", 250.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is a fucking midget and Scientologist. He had no business playing Jack Reacher.
Though, to be fair, Tom Cruise is pretty fucking operator in the fact that he...
But he's not 6'5", 250.
Well,
no, he takes his roles very seriously. Like when he was doing that movie, he did a lot of actually live fire training at that range that you see him doing the M40.
Did he actually take those shots?
Yeah, no, he didn't quite go that far. I don't know if he's capable. I can't say whether or not he's actually capable of doing that without some training, but he did spend a large amount of time going over the weapon, specifically learning the mannerisms of loading it, smoothly, pulling bolt handle back, forward, down, catching the brass, that kind of stuff. So he takes his roles which he uses a gun in very seriously. Like, also, if you think about that one scene in Collateral where he does the fast draw and shoots the two guys, he did a pretty phenomenal job in that.
Well, he spent weeks training for that role for
Yeah.
sure, and he was kick-ass in Collateral. Don't get me wrong, that was pretty ballsy. But so you guys did Jack Reacher, okay?
Yeah.
We talked about Heat. Was there any chance that you guys provided the firearms for Heat or no?
No, Heat was California. Heat was
Okay.
all California. So unfortunately, we didn't do that.
So you guys don't do anything in California? You stay on the East Coast or what?
Right. We stay on the East Coast, and then anything kind of in between is fair game. Middle America kind of stuff is fair game between the two of us.
So this is like a Cosa Nostra, 5 families, everybody has their territory and nobody fucks with anybody else kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, it's essentially a rivalry and a friendship at the same time. You know, we're in competition with each other for a lot of America. You know, there's a lot of movies down in New Orleans, and there's a lot of movies in North Carolina and stuff like that.
Here's a good one. What about Shooter? Did you guys work on Shooter? With
Mark
Wahlberg?
I don't know, because that was before.
Okay.
That was before I worked here. I can check.
It's set mostly on the East Coast, so I was just curious. Doesn't mean it was filmed there, but it was set there.
It wouldn't surprise me if we had. I'm sure we did. Let me check real quick. But basically, for Jack Reacher, if you talk, let's say, exclusively about the end scene, you know, there's a couple M4s and SIGs exchanging fire. There's, you know, the M14, M1A, whatever you want to call it, that Robert Duvall has, which, by the way, was too heavy for him to hold. So for a lot of it, they spent an exorbitant amount of money getting an M1A molded and cast in soft foam, so it weighed maybe, you know, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, or something like that, so that he could easily manipulate it without, you know, getting tired super quickly. Because he's just...
this is pounds. Pounds are pain.
He's just getting up there, man. But, you know, he did well. Let's see.
Channel my inner nut and fancy.
Don't fuck with Robert Duvall, man. That's
So-
Rubbin's racing, goddammit.
So for that last scene, they probably went through maybe, you know, 2,000, 3,000 rounds, I would guess, over the course of maybe 3 days of shooting. You know, it's not an exorbitant amount, but... And it really just depends, because sometimes it depends a lot on the directors, it depends on the actors.
How many takes they got to do. And
Exactly, how many takes they have to do, how many takes they want to do. Some directors want to get the shooting over with, they just want to get it done and move on and do, you know, dialogue and shit like that to really build characters. And then some directors are just obsessed with the shooting. They understand that it's, you know, it's what people are watching the production for, it's the action, you know.
Yeah, you're talking about like the John Woos and the Tarantinos and stuff.
Yeah, so I was on a production yesterday.
Can you tell us what it was, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can. I don't really see why I couldn't. I was on Gotham, you know, new TV show, premiered, what? A couple...
For those of you who are eventually going to listen to this on iTunes, what you saw or what you missed seeing was OmniFox
it's actually pretty. I think
spurging all over himself, like Stan Marsh did in that South Park episode where they lost the internet.
Gotham ended up being. I think it's got some seriously good potential.
Does it? I've not.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out.
Well, to give you a frame of reference from there, so we were doing one scene that was originally toted in the original script to be this large shootout, all shotguns. It was 4 bad guys versus 4 good guys. Basically, you know, there was like a car crash, and there was an exchange of gunfire, and there was supposed to be this huge shootout. And, you know, they were, as the day went on, it was like, all right, we're running out of time, we got to do this. They cut it down a little bit. I brought 48 boxes of 25 shotgun shells, so that comes out to 1,200 rounds. You know, that's what they ordered because that's what they were roughly anticipating using for this scene. They shot under 20. So
under 20 rounds?
Yeah, 20 rounds. Because they had to cut down everything so much, and just because they liked what they got so quickly in so few takes, that that's all they had to use. They just had to use 20 rounds. That's it, out of 1,200.
But they paid for 1,200.
but they paid for 1,200 and they own 1,200, and they kept them. They have them now for in the future. If they it's a long running show.
Shotgun use.
Yes, expect shotgun use. Expect NFA shotgun use as well, which is pretty cool. And it was a good day. Everything went well. I mean, shotguns obviously just because they're mechanical in nature and they don't rely on back pressure and cycling, like that of that kind. They're great to take on set. They are an absolute pleasure, just like revolvers. As long as the timing is correct on a revolver, it's never going to jam on you. So I love taking revolvers because really on set, everything is super rushed because on set, the phrase "time is money" is completely true. Everything costs money, and every second that they're not shooting and it pushes over is going to cost the production money. And so they're always rushing, always trying to get that next shot a little bit quicker. And when your gun jams on you, that means you're doing extra takes, and they don't like that. And it makes you look like you don't know what you're doing, even though there's a million factors out there that could cause that gun to be jamming. Just like in live fire, if you're going to limp wrist the gun, if you're not going to give it a solid platform to do its motions on, then the gun is going to jam. And some actors, because they are not firearms enthusiasts, don't understand that. And we do our best as armorers to teach them proper stance, how to hold the gun, how to not teacup. But god damn it, after the fucking fifth take, they're teacupping still, and you're telling them, don't do that, give it a nice firm platform, and they just don't get it. And the gun jams, and the director's going, well, what the fuck is going on? Why does the gun keep jamming? Why don't you know how to do your job? And it's like, well, I'm sorry, I do. I'll show you right now. I'll empty an entire magazine, and, the gun is capable, the actor is not. So that shit happens all the time.
Kick your actor in the ass, goddammit.
Do they ever end up having to swap? Well, I guess it's not really an answerable one of, X person can't handle it, so you just switch to their stunt double or their body double to
I've never seen it get that bad.
Okay. So you just beat them until they get not stupid.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes they're just like, you know what, whatever. If the gun jams, just fudge it, and that's why. Again, I don't know, you all are probably going to watch movies and end up disliking them a lot more than you did before tonight, but if you look at a lot of movies, you'll see just for quick snippets that, the gun was already locked open and, it looked empty, or there's,
Well, that's like in Citizen Kane, the MP40 actually jammed because it was a shitty one, and they had to stitch stuff together. It's been like that for since the dawn of cinema.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens, so.
Well, it's just like, gun people watch movies that involve firearms, and we just kind of pick shit out, and it's not because we're sitting there, with a magnifying glass and just watching, waiting for a fuck up. The shit just jumps out at us. Just like I imagine, like, somebody who, I don't know, drives race cars for a living would look at a racing movie, and
it's what we know.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
What you know.
And, or somebody who flies airliners for a living would look at a movie like, I don't know, Air Force One or something and be like, what the shit are they doing? That's all wrong. It's the industry you're in. It's just stuff that you naturally key in on.
We do have a couple of good questions from question from the YouTubes. You've answered this to me because I asked this question of you. Do you guys have pre-86 autos or just post-dealer samples?
Well, that MP7 answers that.
That doesn't quite answer it. I mean, it's only half of it. We have both. I mean, we have a ton of pre-86, and sorry, one mic works is being an asshole. Yeah, so we have a ton of transferables, and we have a ton of post samples.
Just saying, we can totally see it in the window behind.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, there's nothing I can fucking do except for tell him to go away. With, I've known him since I was in kindergarten, so there's not much I can do from him fucking with me right now. Yeah, so we have everything basically. We have transferables, non-transferables, whatever. We are a Type 7 FFL. We are a manufacturer, and we do manufacture whenever we need to, which isn't super often, but it happens for sure.
So how does that work as far as demo letters and such?
I was just going to ask that. That's a good question.
Because do you just go, Mr. NYPD, I need a demo letter for this for a movie?
You know, honestly, I don't even know the answer to that, you know, because it's like, that has nothing to do with me. I'm just a low.
That's above your pay grade.
Essentially. Yeah, exactly. It's like, however these things come into our possession is not my concern. My concern is making sure that they work and that they stay in this building when they need to be here, essentially.
It just shows up.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows up. I you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, we don't need demo letters. We're above the law.
Yeah.
I am the law.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I guess we have some sort of magic that we can spit.
I'm assuming it just because it's such a big money industry, and New York is huge as far as the film industry goes. That there's probably just something worked out where there's somebody. Hey, just what you didn't know existed in New York. The sheriffs. Yeah. I bet you it's the sheriff.
Bless his little heart.
Contrary to popular belief, New York City actually has a sheriff, and he basically they just do process serving. They don't really they've been neutered so bad compared to other municipalities.
Yeah.
We keep.
Bush Hunt wants to know, where can I buy blanks that actually have gunpowder?
Oh, that's the one. That was the other one.
You know, I don't know much about like commercial blanks, because generally blank firing guns that are manufactured as blank firing guns and are therefore not guns according to the ATF are generally in that weird. Yeah, they're in that weird 8mm caliber, and they have this weird plastic green insert that is, you know, has a cross cut in it that just kind of flowers open instead of the brass itself being crimped. I have no idea what they put in those. I would assume it's gunpowder, but I don't know. In terms of theatrical blanks, I don't think that they are readily available to the public.
I mean, that makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah,
because you were telling me that you have 4.6 blank firing ammo, which is
correct.
You know, we can't even find 4.6 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy that makes our ammo is a fucking wizard, and he just comes up with crazy shit. I mean, we have this one blank caliber that's called the 5-in-1 that basically fits into 5 different guns based on their bore size, and I have no idea how that works. It's just black magic, but it does.
What are the calibers?
I honestly don't even know. There's something
I could see like, you know, something that uses an AR bolt face could be easy, or
no, it's nothing like that. They're like weird, obscure old calibers. Like we use them a lot of times for replicating old black powder rifles, like Enfields and Zouaves and stuff like that. We actually convert those from muzzle-loading guns into blank-firing guns by basically machining the receiver and putting a chamber in, and then we add a firing pin to the hammer in lieu of a piece of film.
Well, and that as far as the ATF goes, that's manufacturing a firearm, correct?
No.
Because you leave the barrel restricted, or?
I don't know. The barrel is not restricted. That's kind of a gray area that I can't really answer because I don't
bring that up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'll look into it. I'm sure. I mean, we're not stupid. It's just kind of a thing where I don't know because, again, it's not something that I have to worry about. It's kind of the higher ups have already determined what the proper thing to do is. So I'm guessing that for whatever reason, that doesn't work. I think mostly, probably. I don't know. I was gonna say because you know, the round itself that you're loading into the chamber doesn't have a bullet attached to it, but I don't know if that really matters. You know.
Well, I bet it probably matters if it's. I bet you the deciding factor is if it's because the way that the CNRs work as well, the Curios and Relics, is if it's an obscure caliber. It can be a brand, fairly new gun, but if it's obscure, and if you're using something exclusively that is only a blank firing, I'm assuming that that's what makes the difference, is that it's not chambered in anything realistic.
Available, right. That would make sense.
Yeah.
I would think that's probably a likely candidate for why that's allowed. Yeah.
Well, the guy who asked the question about the blanks also just came back and said, thank you, I wanted to know, because we were going to start filming a small movie for YouTube and wanted to save time and not have to do all the gun flashes and After Effects. So I would probably suggest that you maybe get in contact with the specialists and say, hey, we need ammo, can we buy some from you?
Right. Generally, just as a rule of thumb, we do not rent ammo without a gun, and vice versa. We do not rent guns without our ammo. Like if somebody explicitly tells us, hey, I'd like to get a gun from you, and we say, do you need blanks? And they say, no, somebody else is providing the blanks for us. We'll say, sorry, but you're not getting a gun from us because it's not safe. All blanks are different.
Different, yeah.
Yeah, and
it makes sense that you want to match your guns with the blanks that for sure work in them, and everything is safe, as safe as it can be made.
Right. Much like in Rich's shop, I'm assuming if somebody wants to come shoot a 22 in the range, he's not going to let them just bring any gun, bring their pocket full of corroded ammo.
There's no fucking way.
Let me try this in your gun.
Yeah, no, never gonna happen. But yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense from a liability standpoint for sure, and from a business standpoint, In
a logistical standpoint, because our guns are set up to use a certain amount of pressure. Like basically the plugs, you take a drill set, a number 1 drill through a number 60 drill, and you drill out the plug, to any one of those numbers, which changes your aperture size. So when each gun actually acts differently than another one, one Glock might be completely different to another. One Glock might take a number 8 plug to cycle on full loads, and a different Glock will take a number 12. It completely depends. So we set those guns up based on our ammunition and our pressure loads that we have manufactured for us. So if you take that Glock that I've set up with a number 8 plug and you run some other random ass blank through that has double the powder because that's their full load or whatever, you can blow up the gun and you can seriously injure yourself. So it's just from a liability standpoint and a logistical standpoint of actually getting the shots you want because the gun is going to work, then yeah, you're going to get the ammo from us. When we started doing those exercises with the National Guard, because of the sheer amount of ammunition that they were going to go through, we're talking, 50,000 rounds over the course of 2 weeks or something. I don't know exact numbers or whatever. They opted for going with blanks that are manufactured in Russia. It's by a company that's called Brown Bear. So what we had them do is just ship us, 3,000 rounds so that we could set up the guns with those blanks. That was a special exception.
You tuned it for
exactly. We tuned it for that pressure load, and Brown Bear actually makes different blanks. I don't know if it was just different years of production that created entirely different pressure loads, but when we did one exercise, we set up all the guns. They were running flawlessly with the Brown Bear blanks. 6 months later rolls around and they want to do another exercise. So we say, great, we still have some Brown Bear left. Let us start setting it up. And they go, oh no, we will, it's actually different ammunition. We said, what are you talking about? They said, well, we're still using Brown Bear, but the boxes are white now instead of blue, which they used to be, or teal. So we sent them to us completely different. Not a single gun would run on the new ammunition, just a totally different pressure load for whatever reason. I don't read.
And I'm also assuming that this isn't your a brand new client or anything like that. This is something that you do for a long-standing client. So it's not just going to be any random dude.
No, and it was just the fact that they were going to use such an absorbent amount of ammunition that it was kind of a little bit of bartering back and forth. I'm sure when everything was being ironed out in terms of, conditions of the contract and everything like that when it first started. I'm sure we pushed super hard for them to use our blanks. I mean, why wouldn't we? We're a business. But for whatever reason, when everything was said and done, we were using theirs. So
probably a pain in the ass to ship them.
Yeah. And honestly, if you're talking about, going through 50,000 rounds of 7.62 by 3.9, what are the odds that your blank guy has that amount stockpiled at any given time to fill an order like that fast,
Right. Yeah, I mean, he does miracles every week for us, where, because, production's just, that's the thing about Hollywood that's the craziest. It's like they know about things for any, whatever period, a month maybe. They know that they have this shootout coming up, but God damn it, if the day before they still haven't finalized everything and gotten everything, and you have, hours to make things happen that are completely crucial to the entire production. So,
you're called specialist.
he overnights, he manufactures and overnights blank orders, all the time for us. It's pretty amazing. And we do the same thing in terms of fabrication. It's like they come up with these projects and that should take realistically a person working, a 9 to 5 or something like that, 4 or 5 days of solid work, and they need it tomorrow or the next day or something like that. So this office is pretty much my second home. I mean, I spend nights here consistently working on fabrication jobs. Because that's my primary job as a fabricator. I do a lot of armoring, and it does happen, but there are other armorers as well who, take care of it. So when fabrication is on my, is in front of me that I need to do, then somebody else is probably going to end up on set, if possible.
Browse wants to know why you have such a pretty mouth.
All the better to suck you with.
It is New York, fella.
It is New York.
Yeah.
Firearm Tutorials has a question, and I'm assuming that this is going to be something that would be handled in post, but he wants to know, where did I get that suppressor sound used in movies? Even my 22 suppressor doesn't sound like they do in the movies, and I'm assuming that's post.
Yeah, I mean, it's all definitely done in post. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's also what you addressed at the beginning here. It's what the producers think that people want to hear. And exactly. It is what people want to hear. They want to hear the
yeah.
They don't want to hear the bang, bang, bang. When you
if you ask me, a solid plug gun set up properly to cycle correctly sounds pretty much as close to suppressed fire as you're going to get. Now, why they then go and modify that, after the fact with that stupid noise, I don't know, but it's most likely boils down to, yes, that's what people now have ingrained in their memory who don't know any better, so why change it? They're going to accept it, so go for it. It sounds cooler, too, honestly. That noise is a little cooler than real suppressed fire. Kind of.
It really does. It's neat.
Yeah.
It would back to the MP5 thing, when you're shooting one of those, it would be cooler if they sounded like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's another thing about Hollywood that's crazy. Before, when I held up the flash hider that we put on the MP7, and I put it up so you can see the aperture through it, that is a quarter load aperture. So, even though the gun is suppressed, when I shoot that gun on set during a take, and because it's a quarter load, you're going to get a decent sized flash coming out of a suppressor. Do you all see a problem with that? Yeah. Does the average person? Probably not. They're going, wow, that's cool. That sounds really quiet. That's making a funny noise. People are stupid, and just things like that happen all the time. But it works for them. People are going to movies. People are watching TV. People are enjoying it. So why change a working formula?
Did you get the tick? Yeah. Okay.
I just opened that up. Holy crap. Puro, that's awesome, but I would still rather have one of your mods.
I was actually working with Puro today. He sent me a box, and I was doing a little engraving on it.
I'm trying to get him to send me one, and I'll showcase it on the channel or something.
There's no dick sled on that?
I don't have $250 to spare right now, so.
You need to
they're really super nice box mods.
Yeah, they're nice, so I'm excited to to engrave things. And all you other fucking idiots watching this shit, send me shit to Laser Engrave On because I like doing it. So do it.
I do have a significant amount of stuff I want engraved, but can I send you a lower?
You can. I mean, I would just have to book it in. If it's an 80% that's unfinished, then you could just straight send it, obviously. If you wanted to send me a completed lower, I would just have to book it in and out. I mean, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do it if you want, sure.
So,
you're not going to get inundated by dick butt requests.
Yeah, no kidding. This was supposed to be like a 20-minute segment, and it's gone an hour and 5 minutes, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is some really cool shit. But we have a lot of other stuff to cover. But I want to touch on one or two other things real quick.
Sure.
And I realize this is going to be before your time, but Brandon Lee, who starred in the first Crow movie.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that, I assume.
Absolutely.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. Any idea? I mean, what happened?
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
if he was shooting how did that happen?
Without conspiracy theory.
So the scene.
Yeah, without conspiracy theories.
Without conspiracy theories, as far as I know, and I've heard from people who were there and stuff like that. Basically, what happened is the prop master fucked up, straight up, because in the realm of Hollywood, you have really two types of ammo. There are more, but basically live ammo does not exist on a set. It has no business being there, whatever. So you have either blanks or you have dummies, and the purpose of blanks is obvious. The purpose of dummies is just to simulate live ammunition in, physical appearance. So what happened was the prop master knew that they were going to do a shooting scene, and he wanted the gun to appear loaded. It was a revolver. So at this point with revolvers, what we have to do is we have to tap each cylinder individually and put a set screw inside of it to prevent live ammunition from either being chambered or shooting a bullet out of the gun. We also put one in the back of the barrel instead of the front for a revolver, but that's not here or there. So anyway, this was before all that happened. So there was essentially nothing inside any of the chambers of the cylinders. So he wanted it to look good. So he made his own dummy rounds. He didn't have any. He didn't think to rent them from an appropriate party or anything like that. He said, you know what, I can just make this myself. So he took some empty casings. He seated the bullets, and they did the scene. And what ended up happening was when he made the dummy rounds, he made them with a live primer. So when they did the scene and he actually pulled the trigger, the primer had enough force to push the bullet about a quarter of the way into the barrel, and it got lodged there. And so basically they did their scene with the dummy rounds, whatever, blah, 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 blah. They went on to the blank firing. And, I'm sure you can assume from here what they did. They put a full load blank in there. They pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Probably the same muzzle velocity that you're going to get out of a live round,
Well, pretty close, for sure.
Yeah, and it killed them. I mean, you can certainly imagine why. So that's what happened. The prop master being someone who probably wasn't very firearm savvy. I mean, obviously he was enough to be able to make dummy rounds, but that's not very difficult. And he
really
fucked it up. Yeah, he didn't think about it exactly. It's just a little oversight that he overlooked, and it cost someone their life. And that is the reason now that there are such strict,
all those plugs
rules and stuff like that. Exactly. Nobody wants anybody to get hurt, and that is the primary role of an armor. At the end of the day, yeah, we want the guns to work, but I would much rather a gun jam than somebody, get injured or whatever. That's what I'm there for, is to make sure that everybody's safe and that everybody goes home intact. So yeah, and then the other famous case, I don't know the dude's name. He was a soap opera actor in the 80s and whatever, and he, like a lot of other people, because there was a thread earlier last week or whatever that asked, are blanks dangerous? can they hurt someone? And the answer is, of course, absolutely. They have an incredible amount of pressure and hot gas coming out of the front of the muzzle, especially with a full load, and it is enough to kill you, absolutely. So what he did was he played Russian roulette with himself. He put the gun up against his temple. He literally put the muzzle to his temple, and he shot it, and the concussive force was enough to crack his skull, and he died. Talk about fucking stupid putting a gun to your head, but he thought it was a toy, oh, this thing shoots blanks, this thing isn't a real gun, let me just do whatever the fuck I want, let me get some laughs out of people because I'm a huge jokester, and he's fucking 6 feet in the ground because of it, so it's
he
not
treated it like a glorified cap gun.
Yeah, essentially,
Yeah.
And that's why you have a job.
And that's why I have a job, yeah.
Yeah, that's why your entire industry exists, honestly.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, guns are so centric to productions. It's not even funny. I know. Talk about job security. It's like I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of Brandon Lee, okay, granted, Brandon Lee was never going to be, like an Al Pacino or anything like that, but he was really good as the Crow in the first Crow movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And that franchise, went downhill in a big, big way after that. I don't know if you've seen any of the.
Let's not even talk about the second Crow, please.
The direct-to-video ones, like the one that was in New Mexico on the Indian reservation, that was terrible. I have Netflix, so I watched some weird shit on Netflix. But the long and the short of it is that that could have been avoided. And the Crow franchise could have been a much better franchise if it weren't for just a stupid accident.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So.
Well, I think it's been awesome sitting here talking to you. But unless we wanted to go the entire show just covering this,
I mean, for the sake of people who maybe don't find this interesting at all, maybe you should move on. I mean, I'm always down to come back, whenever you guys want to have me, so we can continue in the future or whatever. But it's up to you all.
Our lawyers draw up an exclusive contract.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you to sign a non-compete
agreement and a 308 demo.
But
I got half a case down here. I'll give you a couple handfuls.
Maybe I don't know. I'll send you a flat Corona or something, and by way of payment. But yeah, man. I mean, do you want to hang out for the rest of the show and just kind of shoot the shit on this other stuff?
I got nowhere else to go. I don't know if I really have any insight on anything else you guys are going to talk about, but I'll try and say my mind for anything.
You might have some insight on what both our Gun-It Thread of the Week ended up being, and it's related to blanks. I'm gonna just call them blanks at this.
Yeah, I mean they basically were. They're probably less dangerous than blanks are, to be quite honest.
Just real quick before we move on, just if you guys want to know more about the specialists and stuff like that, you go to thespecialistsltd.com. If you're, I mean, there's this guy who's saying he's in Miami or something and he's wanting these blanks. That's where you're going to want to get a hold of these guys at. If you're on the East Coast, I guess that's your Costa Nostra agreement with the West Coast. Is that
people can call us from wherever they want. We'll point you in the right direction. Wherever that needs to be. Believe me. So.
So is it safe to assume then? Just one more thing. You know who Freddie W is?
No.
Freddie Wong. He was a YouTube celebrity who did a lot of. You know what I'm talking about? The Asian, obviously the Asian guy.
Yeah.
And then he did this show that I just binge watched on Netflix over the weekend called Video Game High School, which is a terrible show, but it has a lot of gunplay in it. I would assume that a lot of that stuff came from your West Coast, compadres.
Yeah, probably. I think originally he did all of his gunfire CGI post. Originally, I think he did it mostly airsoft, but
oh, really?
But maybe I think he gained enough notoriety eventually that maybe he had some people backing him and got enough of a budget together to be able to rent. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But
I'm getting Facebook messages from people who want you to be on their shows now. So I told you this was going to happen. You have a really kick-ass job, and it's a unique thing. And it's really is cool that our little baby show, 4 episodes in, has a guest that nobody else has had before, and that's because basically the way these shows work is the guest it's kind of a round robin circle jerk of going to different shows, and everybody's been on everybody's show before, but it's pretty kick ass.
It's okay. The show also took my cherry.
Well, no, this isn't your first podcast.
Video podcast. I had a radio show.
But but it's not your first time doing something like this.
No, but it's a little bit different doing a radio show where no one sees you, and you're not having to be conscious of picking your nose, Michael.
Right. Mike, just send me your email. If you're open to being on other shows, send me your email on Facebook or something.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll pass it along to the people, and they'll get a hold of you from that avenue, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because, we could sit here and we could talk about guns all night, and obviously that's why most people are watching, but we haven't even really scratched the surface of what I do on a daily basis because, yeah, guns are a huge part of it, but also the fabrication is so huge, and it's a lot of times related to guns, but not necessarily,
You mentioned perhaps showing off a little something in IRC today. Is that going to happen, or do you not have it with you?
I do. I mean, I didn't really know where...
Fucking do it, man!
Alright, fine.
I love that shit.
Oh.
I so want you to send me one, but I think it'd be in a million pieces by the time it showed up here.
I mean, we get them shipped here. They ship from, actually I don't know where they ship from necessarily. Sometimes we make our own, sometimes we outsource them. It depends on...
I was just going to ask if they're... One second. I was just going to ask if they were spun sugar, but obviously they're not because you're bleeding now.
Am I bleeding? That's cool.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You got a little
That's
stuff on your forehead.
Well, bottles are generally a little easier. That one was weird because it actually has like a pattern built into it. So it's kind of got some sharp edges. And I'm also not an expert on breakaway glass, so I don't necessarily know how to pull my hits and stuff like that. I just fucking smash myself in the face.
You got a couple of good scratches on your head there, man.
That's cool.
That's awesome. That was impressive.
I would totally break one of those over my head on my channel.
You shouldn't have said anything. We should have.
I mean, I was just gonna pull it out and do it, but it was just kind of a random thing.
I was hoping you were gonna open the segment with it.
That would have been good too. It was just we never really went into fabrication and 3D printing, which is a whole nother fucking 2 hours of talking if you really wanted to.
You got something coming up, some big production coming up that you're going to be working on that we could maybe save for another episode?
Yeah, I mean, there's always
maybe we should cover this due to the time constraints. Maybe we should cover this off the show, off the air.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so let's move on to the Gun It Thread of the Week.
So these gentlemen sent us put a link up on the Reddits.
I'm not going to say who it was because I don't want to get sued, but I will say this.
We're not going to specify their names.
But I will say this: they are an ammunition company and they are from Detroit, Michigan.
I'm not going to say anything about who they are. You can go find this out themselves. What they did is they came up with this glorious, ingenious idea that no one's thought of ever in the history of guns, is Subsonic 223. So they basically made 22s.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even really know that suppressed 223 was possible. That doesn't make any sense to me. How does that work?
I'd be highly concerned. Well, hey, they did open up saying this stuff won't cycle. Well, duh. And then there's also the whole thing. I'd be terribly concerned at exit velocity. Actually making it out the end of the barrel.
I would bet money that. Watching that video, I would bet money that at least one of those rounds squibbed.
I watched the video, but I don't really remember it. How was it? It wasn't an SBR, was it? It was like a 16 or something like that?
No, it was a carbine length suppressed AR, and he had to manually cycle it each time. It was really super quiet. I mean, duh.
It was like he was shooting a 22.
Well, it was even quieter, honestly. Subsonic 223 through a suppressor. I mean, it was super quiet, but obviously there's not nearly enough gas produced to cycle the gun. So he had to rack the charging handle after every round, and it was just the video itself was stupid because it was just a badly done video. But and we all know what an expert I am on making awesome YouTube videos. But the thing that really got to me was his whole fucking attitude in that thread, which is why I was kind of glad it won. He's people are saying Subsonic 556 is retarded. He's like, we all have our opinions. They're like, no, dickhead, that's just a fact. Why would you?
You honestly would get better performance with a drop-in bolt and 22 long rifle.
Oh, Pearl wants you to eat the glass.
No, because it's not sugar.
I was going to say it didn't sound like the spun sugar glass.
Nope. It's I don't know the exact composition, but it's probably not edible, and if it is, it's not fun because it doesn't melt in your mouth. So
I'll tell you what's edible. Frog lube is edible. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is edible.
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard it's like kind of minty.
It doesn't taste bad.
Yeah.
But it'll give you the shits.
It will.
I'll just have to take everybody's word on that thing.
It's a great field laxative if you need it. Just for the preppers out there needing to know, you don't have to pack the X-Lax. You just throw the frog lube in. Though honestly, as far as frog lube goes, I've started moving away from it because of winter. It kind of sucks in the winter at times.
The only problem I've had with frog lube in the winter is on like a bolt action 22, where the gun by itself doesn't generate enough heat anyway because it's a bolt action 22. And then you couple that with the cold weather, and I have had issues on a bolt action 22 with the firing pin channel and the spring getting a little gummed up, so you're getting a lot of light strikes and stuff. It's pretty easily remedied, but it's an annoyance. That's probably something I would stay away from for that specific use, just because the gun doesn't get warm enough to keep the frog lube in a reasonably liquid state to do its job.
One of our viewers asked, what does frog lube taste like? It tastes like green.
Imagine the color green, and I don't know.
Shitty gum.
Yeah. It doesn't taste. It's not terrible. It's edible. It's not going to kill you because it's completely vegetable based. But anyway, let's go back to the thread of the day or thread of the week, because there were some pretty strong reactions in that thread to it. And I mean, from my standpoint, it's just
there's no point to have it. It's really it's filling a market that isn't there. Like I said, the drop-in bolt and 22s is going to work it's going to bounce down that barrel a hell of a lot better than anything that you're actually going to get out of a 55 grain. I'm wondering what grain they even used. I'm assuming that they went with something like a 40 and then some really.
Well, I think he said in the video they were shooting 55 grains.
Were they? Okay.
The projectile.
I didn't look close enough.
But I can't. I mean, I don't know what kind of powder, because you could still theoretically achieve subsonic performance that would, if you opened up the gas port enough, would cycle the gun. But I would say theoretically.
You have to cut
the projectile would never stabilize. It would, it would. There's all sorts of issues after the projectile leaves the barrel, but you could theoretically do it on paper, because I did the math. On paper, it works out to where it could be done. It wouldn't be remotely accurate or remotely reliable, but theoretically it could be done. But the question is why? Why go through all that trouble? If you want a 22 caliber subsonic, then just buy a 22 subsonic, and shoot subsonic 22 through a 22 rifle, because that's about the same performance you're going to get, and the bullet's not going to be that much lighter.
Yeah, I like I said, it's filling a niche that isn't there. It doesn't really exist. There's no real point.
I don't think, honestly, that this ammunition company from Detroit was intending to try and sell this shit, because that would never happen.
Are you still cleaning up glass?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fucking covered in it. I'm just like slowly wiping it off my face.
I think they were doing it for the lulz, and it seriously backfired on them, honestly.
Yeah, they were definitely just doing it for the novelty, but I mean, in that respect, if it's not going to work semi-auto, do it in a bolt gun. Don't get any bolt movement whatsoever, and at least try and maximize the amount of noise suppression you're going to get, and show how quiet it truly is. It
was super quiet. You saw the video. I mean, it was super quiet.
I just don't see if you're not gonna try and manipulate the firearm or whatever to work semi-automatic, then don't use a semi-automatic firearm. It's just, you look like an idiot.
We also had we had a plethora of not super intelligent people on the sub this week, including the gentleman who left.
Hold on, before we go down that road.
Oh.
Browse, I don't understand your question. Browse asked a question in the Q&A app. I have an actual question this time. I see. He's talking about me. My wife cites on her something.
Ruger.
I'm assuming he means Ruger, but I don't know what the fuck that second word is supposed to be. Drafetter? Other than a laser, how do I get it back on paper without shooting the damn thing? Dude, fix your spell check and ask the question again, because I really... Send it to me on... I mean, you have me on Facebook. Ask me in Facebook.
But anyway, moving down the line with our special enabled users on the sub, we've got a gentleman who was shipping a firearm back for repair, and he left it on his front stoop. And then all of a sudden, his gun ended up going missing. Now,
was he shipping it off for repair? Or was he selling it to somebody? Because it's a Star Modelo Super, which there's no reason to ship it off for repair.
Well, maybe he was having it sent off to get some True Glow TFOs put on it and some porting done. Whatever, he's shipping it off for some reason. So it was probably a CNR, and it sold it off to some dude. You're right. I forgot to look at what it was.
I checked, actually. I don't think that gun is on the CNR list, because they made them into the 80s. That doesn't mean anything specifically, because there are some guns that were made in the 80s that are on the CNR list, but I'm pretty sure Star Modelo Super is not on the CNR list.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Largo guns were on the CNR list, because
it's a pretty still. I mean, it's not hard to find that ammo.
It really doesn't matter, though, because he could be shipping it in state too. And,
yeah.
You can buy a gun. It's perfectly legal to ship a gun in state.
The long and the short of it is, he left it in a box on his front porch, and somebody stole that shit.
Yes.
And he wants to know how fucked he is.
I don't want to spend too much time addressing this. It's just stupid people being stupid with not thinking things through.
It's the comments that bug me on this. It's not so much this guy screwed up, but there was one comment in there about let me see if I can find it. Something about if the box is properly marked, and I wanted to respond to it in a thread, but then I realized I would spend 15 minutes typing out a very rage-filled response. And the long and the short of it is you don't mark a fucking box being shipped by FedEx, UPS, or USPS with a firearm in it. You don't let people know there's a firearm in it. That's the policy of all those companies.
It's actually against the law to mark it as a firearm.
Yes, so that's just silliness.
So I do want to say I do love my UPS guy who at one I got 3 Mosins coming to me and they just ended up in my lawn. Kind of, I swear to God, he grabbed them, pitched them, and threw them in my. The boxes broke open, and there's literally I came home to rifles in my yard. I was like, huh? That's
the rifle fairy visited.
That's what happens when you plant casings in the ground. It sprouts Mosins. You can't rely on the shippers being A, knowing the law, B, not actually being the ones that typed it, C, knowing how to do their own job.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. I don't. Maybe it's just me, but why on earth would you leave a box on your porch to be picked up? Why wouldn't you take the extra 5 minutes to go down to the UPS store or Kinko's or wherever to ship something off if you're not going to be home when Technically, that's just silliness.
Technically, according to UPS and FedEx, the drivers, unless you have scheduled pickups, shouldn't be picking up firearms anyway.
Right. You have to take them to a hub. I get that. My point being is that why would you leave a box of any sort on your porch unattended while you go off and gallivant at fucking work? In this day and age, when the internet is full of videos, of surveillance videos of people stealing shit off of other people's porches, and we're getting close to holiday season. Tomorrow's October. We're getting close to the Christmas season. This shit's going to happen every single day somewhere. Somebody's going to steal boxes off people's porches because guess what? Christmas time is when these criminals make the most, make their booty for the rest of the year. Why would you do that? Yeah, I said booty.
Do you guys have to go through anything special when shipping firearms?
No, I don't think so. I mean, generally
on the state law or city level, that.
Well, they're an FFL, so.
Yeah, we're an FFL.
Yeah,
so
but I
generally
don't know if there's.
we ship out to other FFLs. If we do jobs out of state, we just go from one FFL to another and pick it up there. Whenever we do.
You guys should send me an MP7 with some blanks, and I'll shoot it on my channel.
Okay.
No big deal.
I'm an SOT.
Just Form 3 this out to me, and then I promise to Form 3 it back.
I will totally Form 3 it back. Scout's honor. I will totally Form 3 it back in, I don't know, 10, 12 years, whenever I get bored with it. Browse, okay. The wife sights on her Ruger drifted. Other than a laser, how do I get it back on paper without shooting?
Put it in the middle.
I'm assuming it's the rear sight because those are the ones that tend to drift the most on stuff like that. Just drift it close to the middle, and you can do it super easy. You don't even have to break out the calipers, although calipers won't hurt. Clamp it in a vise, tap on it with a drift punch, get it close to the center. If you want to be anal about it, get the caliper out and measure it from both sides and make sure it's within a 100th of an inch. Lock it back down with some Loctite and call it a day.
Bam, wham, thank you, ma'am. How
did you? I don't understand how you didn't know the answer to that, dude. You own a Kunin, for God's sakes.
Actually, I have his Kunin still. I haven't had time to ship it back to him. I've literally been. This comes back to the earlier address of why I look sweatier each time I come on, is because I literally have been creeping up closer and closer to the 6:30 mark before I get here, because I didn't actually sit down in front of the camera until 6:30, and that's why the show started a minute late.
4 minutes late.
Whatever, shut the fuck up. No one likes Nat.
Did you enjoy shooting the Kunin while you had it, or did you even get a chance? I assume you did.
I got to shoot it a little bit, and That's a lot of
I
fun.
shot the shit out of that gun. It's like sex on a stick. That fucking gun is so awesome.
Yeah, I bought one maybe 2 months ago or so, and I'm in love with it.
I do have to now go find it in the bottom of because I stuck it in the safe so it wouldn't get moved anywhere, and so it's I've shown off our safe room because we're as close to a big box store as you can get and have a single location type of thing. We have just gobs of 4473s and gobs of guns. So I found a place to stash it, and I have to go move 3 years worth of 4473s before I can actually pull it back out of the safe and then mail it back to Browse.
I just wish he had sent me the 38 special recoil spring with it, because I would have shot it a whole lot more. Because I didn't have a ton of 357 to shoot, but I had gobs of 38 special floating around. I would have shot it a ton more than I did. But regardless,
8 loaded up to case capacity, compression load, yo.
So are we kind of done with the Reddit stuff right now?
Yeah, I think that addresses most of anything that was close.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This week's threads that were nominated weren't as honestly. Last week's threads of the week nominees were really awesome threads, every single one of them. And we could have done a whole show on just those, but
there was the underbarrel link, but the thing is that's really hard to talk about on.
Yeah, and then there was
I don't have enough data to pull out and go, this is how it works.
Yeah, being as how we have like 30 viewers, and then hopefully whenever you get around to actually putting this shit on iTunes, hopefully we'll have a lot more listeners. But some of these threads that were nominated are great threads in their own right, but they're very visual threads. So like the M1 thumb, that kind of stuff.
No, that was pretty cool.
That's a cool thread, but it's very visual. I mean, we can't sit here and describe a photograph like that,
and I'm not gonna go grab my M1 and let it slam in the.
Dude, I will send you $1.
$1?
You know what? I will. I don't even own any Dogecoins, but I will totally Dogecoin tip you on Reddit.
Oh, at least 3 of them, please. 3 of them.
But some of the threads that were nominated are great threads in their own right, but they're very visual, and it's really hard to describe that. And then Zap, of course, is being Zap.
This thread.
A couple other things that I know. I mean, I want to talk about this twat Jan Morgan, but were we going to talk about the video you linked to me last night?
I think we'll wait and let more details come out before we start addressing that, because that video is pretty polarizing for the two of us.
Yeah, we really don't agree on any fact of it. Yeah.
So I would like to wait until we have a little more.
I don't get me wrong, it's not going to destroy our friendship or anything, but seriously, guys, him and I talked about this on Steam last night for, I don't know, 40 minutes, and we don't agree about anything about this video.
Well, we did agree that it was a bad shoot.
We did agree it was a bad shoot, but for different reasons. And so the long and the short of it is hopefully there'll be some more stuff that comes to light, and we can talk about it in a way that, because right now everything would be speculation because it's so early in the proceedings of the case and stuff, and it sucks. The long and the short of it is a man's going to lose his career over something that could have been easily prevented with just even a modicum of training. But I think we'll drop it at that, I think.
Yeah, I think what we came down to is that the department was primarily at,
It might not even be the department. It might be the state. It depends on whatever the state standards are.
Yeah.
And
there's a lack of training is what the whole thing ended up being.
So, without getting into a lot of other crap,
let's talk about the Muslim woman.
There's this woman. Her name is Jan Morgan, and I'm going to say right now that if you're offended by the word cunt, then you should probably put some earplugs in. Because this cunty McCunterson, Jan Morgan, did just on her blog. She owns a gun range in Arkansas, in northwest Arkansas, I believe.
Oh, that's even the better part.
Okay, and she owns this gun range, and she has a blog, and she has a Twitter, and her Twitter is at Jan Morgan Media, by the way, and her website is janmorganmedia.com, I believe. But the long and the short of it is the other day that she did this. She put this post that she was going to ban Muslims from her place of business, and she gave a series of reasons why. Now that post has since been removed, but you know, this is the internet. Nothing is ever gone, and she gave, without getting into all the stuff about how honestly how important Muslims were to the formation of this country as we know it. The long and short of it is that she, this 10,000 word article she wrote was just full of just vitriol, and how she said she'd gotten death threats. How are you getting death threats if you own a shitty little gun range in northwest Arkansas from Muslims? How is that even possible? Unless you are a right-wing, ultra-right-wing cunt like Jan Morgan is. And the long and the short of it is that the article, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it goes on to give all these bullshit reasons why she's banning Muslims from her place of business, and that it's legal for her to do so because she's an FFL. And I can attest to the fact that we as FFLs, we have a certain amount of laxity when it comes to who we do business with, and we have a moral.
It's not even a certain amount. It's pretty damn broad.
Yeah, it's
as broad as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, without going into violating people's civil rights. Yeah, I can choose, just like any business, I can refuse service to anyone for any reason or no reason at all. But I also have a moral obligation as an FFL to refuse to do business with certain individuals, with or without proof. So, but what that doesn't mean is that I, not only can I not refuse to do business with somebody legally based on their religious beliefs, I certainly can't fucking publicize that. And what this cunt has done is made us all look like a bunch of fucking inbred redneck hicks in the firearms industry. And the thing is in my opinion, she did it completely for attention and to draw attention to herself and to her shitty little blog, and to her shitty little Twitter page, which is full of people sucking her dick right now, which makes me sad to be a gun owner in this country, knowing that I'm surrounded by some of these fucking assholes who agree with this cunt. And it just bothers me on so many levels that, we have a Constitution and we have a Bill of Rights, and those things only work when they apply to everybody. You can't take one part of the Constitution, for instance, the Second Amendment, and use it to violate somebody else's constitutional rights. It's just not the way it works. And I'm pretty fucking pissed.
Well, not to get into anything too deep on that, my big thing is, we sit as gun owners, we sit there and bitch about how we're persecuted, blah blah blah. But in the same breath, people will bitch about the gays, the Muslims, the Christians, that they will go off on such tangents about other people that, at the same time, it's like being you need to bring these people into the fold as far as being gun owners. It should be a blind type of thing. It should just be you own guns, you use guns, you enjoy guns, not color, creed, race, or whatever in the hell you want involved. And it annoys the fuck out of me when anybody brings up any sort of religion, any sort of race, any sort of stuff when they're talking about guns. You know, it detracts from the conversation.
Well, it doesn't just detract from the conversation; it kills it. You know, and to an extent, you know, having right here in Oklahoma, a recent convert to Islam murdered a coworker. And you know, of course, the media is all over it, saying, you know, he was an ISIS sympathizer, this, that, and the other thing.
He obviously was a little deranged in the brain.
You know, I mean, that may very well be true, but what nobody's mentioning is that the fact that this guy who was a recent, and just like any religion, you know, every religion out there is in business, for lack of a better word, to convert people to their way of thinking. Okay, proselytizing is a big part of religion. And whether you're Christian or Jewish or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, it's a big part of, you know, showing your belief to whatever God you believe in, that you want other people to believe in that same God. That being said, people are keying in on the fact that this guy he's a black dude, a recent convert to Islam, and I guess they say that he had some ISIS literature at his house or something like that, and that he had spent the last few days at his job that he had just been fired from trying to convert people to Islam. Of course, all of that is absolute and total speculation, but the long and the short of it is if you're going to sympathize with an organization like ISIS, you have a fucking screw loose regardless. Okay, it's no different than Christians who sympathize with Westboro Baptist Church. If you believe that shit, you're fucked in the head. And you know, that's the problem with ideologies, is people get so tore up and twisted up in ideologies. Ideologies are bad. Ideologies are okay when you're a kid, because that's how you're forming yourself as a human being. But once you get to adulthood, if you're holding on to these ideologies, you know, they stunt your growth as a human being, regardless. So shit like Westboro Baptist Church, or Open Carry Tarrant County, you fucking assholes, or you know, ISIS, or any radical faction of any belief system or political party is bad. So it's entirely plausible that, you know, people who have a more radical view of in this case Islam would utilize firing ranges to learn how to fire guns, especially if they're here in the States and they're not in some training camp in Afghanistan. Just like, you know, the 9/11 hijackers, they all went to flight schools here in the States. But what's not plausible is that a couple of brown people of Arab descent are going to go into a gun range in fucking Arkansas, northwest Arkansas, okay, and decide that that's when they're going to flip out. It's just not, I mean, there's no logic behind that. Okay, there's no impact there. But her post was taken down, and I'm assuming it was by her because she realized, or somebody pointed out to her, that, you know, what she was doing was incredibly illegal. But it just pisses me off. It makes us all look like assholes. It's like with my Open Carry Chuckleheads video, which if you haven't seen is awesome. It's just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. She can have whatever beliefs she wants, but she can't use those beliefs to openly discriminate against somebody else, another human being, based on their, in this case, religious beliefs, because that's fucking illegal, and it makes us all look like idiots.
You know what also makes us look like idiots? Wearing pants on our head. Makes you look like a retard.
What if they're short pants, though?
So that brings me up to a rant of my own.
Okay.
All right, you know what?
Wow.
I work in a fucking professional environment. Women have all of these goddamn summer options to wear cool clothing. I have the choice of slacks, and slacks.
You're the fucking IT guy. Just wear cargo shorts.
You can't do that. It's called a dress code.
You're the IT guy.
Yes.
Except on days when you're appearing as a witness somewhere, because you're an expert witness, right?
As well. I do end up talking to clients and stuff, so I am front-facing at a point. So, no, I have the choice of slacks, or slacks sometimes. It's fucking annoying as shit because they get their capris, I'm going to bust out a kilt one of these days, and I'm going to get fired over it. And I'm going to sue for gender discrimination. So, yeah, that's my big rant for the week, because sometimes it gets hotter than hell in my office.
You realize that if anybody hears this, I'm gonna be characterized as an ISIS sympathizer, and you're gonna be characterized as a misogynist.
And I'm gonna be characterized as a wannabe transgender crossdresser because I said I was gonna rock a kilt.
Well, kilts are awesome.
If you wore capris, do you think anyone would really have the balls to say anything?
You know what?
I got a funny story about that.
That would be pretty fucking hilarious, because I'm not exactly a small dude. I'm 6'3.5" ish, and not of a small indeterminate weight. And I can be pretty damn intimidating, and I think that would be pretty hilarious to just walk up with some capris on and maybe a blouse and just be like, what? What?
Yeah, just tell them that your operation was approved, and that in the coming weeks they're gonna have to be prepared for a new change.
But I'm gonna need a third bathroom because I can't use either one.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I chose the third gender.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the third gender?
Exactly. You fucking cis scum. You don't know. You don't understand.
Damn it. I need to spend more time on Reddit so I can be up to date with all this shit, I guess.
Oh man.
No, I
just don't have to order much that I can. Oh, what?
I have to order my cargo shorts online from a big and tall vendor online on Amazon, and I ordered a pair from a place I had ordered from in the past, and it's my fault. I didn't read the listing correctly, so the inseam was a lot longer than I normally prefer. So it ends up looking like a pair of capri pants on me. Not quite capris, not quite that long, but long enough to, I kind of look like a fatter, paler version of like an East LA cholo. And and I go to Subway that morning after I'm rocking these new shorts, and I'm like, fuck, these things are long, man. And I go into Subway, and the girl behind the counter, she's like, I love your new shorts. I'm like, they look like fucking capri pants. Because they kind of do. And so that's really no point behind what I just said, except for the fact that you mentioned capri pants.
And that you look good in them, so that's worth something.
You go, boy. You rock
the recovering meth addict at Subway thinks I look good in them. So take that for what it's worth.
I think that's worth a lot.
It is Oklahoma, so that's like at least 3/10 of the population.
Hey now.
I'm gonna get death threats from the OKs.
I doubt it. We have 22 viewers. I seriously doubt anybody from Oklahoma is watching this right now. And if you never get the fucking thing on iTunes, nobody from Oklahoma is ever going to hear it.
It's actually not as easy as, because I got to set up the RSS and the XML shit. So that I really hope to bang out here shortly.
Well, somebody sent me a message on Reddit offering to do it.
The XML and the RSS setup, or just the?
Hang on, I'll see if I can find the message.
Somebody had sent something about doing the audio editing, but nobody actually doing the setup.
Well, I don't know what all goes into it. I figured you could handle it because you've done it in the past.
And now I'm getting comments about my man boobs.
What about your man boobs?
Just IRC is laughing at asking me if I'm on estrogen yet. I said, no, I told you I'm going for the third gender, the third hormone. I can't tell you if you don't understand what's going on. I'm sorry. I'm not going to explain myself. I don't have to. Whatever. That was one thing that was quite annoying at PAX, was that last year and this year is that there's now they have to set up a unisex bathroom because of the social justice warriors being upset about having gendered bathrooms.
Yeah,
I could do an entire show on that, and I could tank
you have nothing
our
better
viewers.
to do with your time.
I could tank our viewers a lot faster than you did with your
I know, dude. I totally tanked them on that.
Oh well, it's still.
Fuck it. It's our goddamn show. I'm gonna say what I want.
I don't know. What do you think, man? What is your final rant? He had the crazy lady. I had the capri pants, and now it's your turn to address the world with your primary concern, other than bleeding from the forehead and having terrible haircuts.
I'm not really concerned with anything. I go to work and I go home and I go to sleep, and that's pretty much fucking it. So
cosplays.
I don't really. Yeah, I cosplay. I don't really give a shit about anything. I don't. Nothing comes to my mind.
Do you read?
Pisses me off. I mean, I read occasionally, but nothing insightful. Just like.
No, he wants to know if you read Warhammer 40K fluff.
Oh, no.
No. I just want to know if you read anything, because most people don't even read anything. It's
no,
appreciative.
Not really. I mean, honestly, with the amount that I work, I just kind of get home and go to sleep, and then get up and go to work. It's just
I completely understand that.
Yeah. No, reading is a good pastime, but I'd much rather watch movies, as much of an idiot as that makes me sound, but you know.
We did have one other question from YouTube of, do you guys ever use real optics like Aimpoint, EOTech? That's EO-TECK.
Oh.
EOTechs.
Yes. We use a lot of EOTechs, both the real ones and the one that you just spelled out, as in the cheap knockoffs. Which actually, I guess we don't have any knockoffs. Like, essentially, we have what would be considered real optics, where the glass is real, and then we have fake ones that, it's actually really weird for the ACOGs, where the optics are fake. Everything is upside down, and there's no magnification. It's just a blurry mess.
Because they probably lack the prisms. If you ever cut open an EO or a ACOG, they've got prism. It's also why, pro tip out there, when you sight in an EOTech after you dial them in, give them the EOTech thump, or not the EOTech, the ACOG thump, and you got to knock them back together. Anyways, that's why they're blurry and upside down.
But basically, yeah, I mean, all the optics we use are real. All the loopholes are functioning loopholes. Most of the EOTechs are functioning EOTechs. Most of the ACOGs are functioning ACOGs. I mean, it's like beyond the EOTechs and the ACOGs, like for larger scopes and stuff like that, they don't really make dummies of that. So, and just like the gun manufacturers, they are kind of enthusiastic about getting their products promoted as well. So
I'm sure Leupold is pretty happy to.
Yeah, Leupold is a big provider to us. They've treated us very well, and I like to think we've treated them well as
I
well.
want to say pretty much everything on the blacklist was topped with a Leupold if it had a magnifier optic. If it was the 1x6s or the 1x6s, and there were a lot of 1x6s on everything.
Yeah, I mean, Leupold pretty much holds the monopoly in terms of optics from us. I mean, we have Burris, we have old Redfields and stuff like that, but in terms of modern shit, Leupold really has the most. So if anyone out there from, and we have some Night Force too, a good amount of Night Force, which is nice because those are super great optics. But anyone at Vortex watching this, give us free shit, please. And give me.
I'm surprised that with the way that Vortex hands out shit like candy. I'm surprised they haven't been like, oh my god, maybe they don't know any better.
Yeah, some people just don't know. I mean, there are actually like companies out there that are third-party intermediaries that like literally their job is to reach out to companies saying, would you like shit promoted? And then they turn around once they get a yes and talk to our company and say this company would like stuff promoted, and it goes like that sometimes. So
so on that topic real quick before we close out the show.
Sure.
So let's say I'm gonna make a cop movie in New York, set in New York.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where in New York, anywhere in the 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
And at some point in this cop movie, it's going to be very gun-centric. There's going to be a massive shootout scene. Think, the shootout scene in Heat, but only awesomer.
Okay.
Which would be hard to do because that was a really great shootout scene.
Yeah, that was cool.
But so I call you guys, I call the specialists up, and I say, hey, I'm doing this movie, and there's going to be this massive shootout scene. I need guns.
Yeah,
lots of guns.
Right. We need guns. Now I'm a prototypical television producer who may or may not know dick about guns. At that point, is it basically up to you guys what you supply, or
no?
What?
I mean, it can go either way. If they don't know anything and they ask specifically for our help, like, hey, we're doing a period piece from the 80s. What would they have and what should we use, then absolutely we will give them our input. But a lot of times they hire on tech advisors, whether it be military, former law enforcement, that kind of stuff, that will give them kind of a pick list. And then they come to us and say, do you have this, do you have that, do you have whatever. So
would
that's
you interact
generally how it goes.
Would you interact with the advisor or with like the producer?
No, so we are... Guns go through the property department, property or props, as you might imagine. They handle all of that. So we would go through the prop master. The prop master would be the one who calls the company and deals with the salespeople and figures out what they want. Now, granted, and generally the prop master is the liaison. They talk to the director, they talk to the producer, whomever it may be, or the tech advisor, to figure out what they want, and then they go from there.
Have you ever been kicked off a movie set?
No, never. I've thought about...
Would you get fired if you were?
It really depends. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the situation. Like, I guess if I got fired for, like, literally negligence or...
No. I'm talking like if the director was just being a fucking tool bag, and you're like, you know what, dude? Let me do my job. And, no, we're not going to add draw, Omni. It's not happening. I'm not using that app. If the director was a total tool bag and was being completely unreasonable, and you were like, dude, it's your actor, tell your actor to stop being, a little girl and handle the weapon the way I taught him to, and he's like, fuck you, get off my set, what would happen then?
I mean, I guess first and foremost, I should say I would never do that. I always throw myself under the bus before an actor or whatever. It's just you apologize and you say you're going to try and work it out, whatever. But let's say that wasn't the case and I just did kind of fly off the handles or whatever, and I got kicked off. I don't think I would necessarily be fired. At least I like to think I wouldn't be, but it's possible. It depends. Again, it depends on the caliber of the production that I'm on. Like if it's a huge client of ours that brings in a lot of revenue, and I really fuck things up, and I was unjustified in doing so, yeah, I could easily get fired. But we as the armorers have a lot of we have. I can't think how to say this. We have a lot of authority, so to speak. Like, yes, we have to show them respect and whatever, but if there's something that they want to do that I don't think is safe, I will absolutely have no problem and will not hesitate to say, we will not do that.
Well, you have a legal obligation, though. You're an RP on the FFL. You're a representative of the FFL on set. So, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. You have a legal obligation on that movie set to make sure that the firearms you're providing are used the way they're meant to be used and not for something just completely absurd.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, but so then if they're they're trying to do something crazy and I'm saying no and they just fly off the handles, I've been taught to bite my tongue essentially and just kind of take my whippings and deal with it quietly.
In other words,
so any sort of front-facing.
Your bread is buttered on.
Yes.
There's also the fact that your job is also front-facing. So, when I refer to front-facing, I mean you're dealing directly with clients. So,
yes,
it's pretty obvious that you do have to cut the balls a little bit because they're the reason you're getting money.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, we don't bring this up to them. They're also the reason that we are also the reason that they're doing what they're doing. It's like, there are only so many games in town, so it's like it's a give and take relationship where we both have to respect each other to get what we want in the end.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly.
They need you to be able to do their productions, and you need them and to be able to make money. And that's the way it is.
Yeah, and we really do work hard to make sure that they get what they want. When they have those crazy requests, it's like as long as they give them ahead of time, it's like generally we can figure out a way to get what they want. Whether it be solid plug, like I said, where you can just do outlandish things that you would never think to do with any other blanks or whatever. But it's just when they have these spur of the moment, genius moments where they're like, oh, I want to do this. If we're not prepared for it, then it's not going to happen. And I'll be as respectful as I possibly can be to tell you no, but I'm going to say no. And, I'm not going to endanger anybody.
Oh, you know what? I just thought of one more thing. We could go on like this all night, but real quick. What about stuff that's done outside of the country? For example, I would assume that there's an equivalent to the specialists or somebody like in Europe, in England or somewhere. Yes. Okay, so you guys don't do anything that's done or filmed or outside of the country at all?
No.
That's all shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's handled by them. But again, we have like a close relationship where if a production,
you have a referral list.
Yeah, like if we have a referral list, they have their own armors, and sometimes they'll bring us over just as a kind of a backup, like a second armor kind of deal, where they keep their primary armor on set, and we would just go there to lend a hand or whatever if a production really asked for it. But generally, you don't get a lot of gunplay in foreign countries, even if movies are quote unquote in foreign countries. You know what I mean? Like I've shot numerous scenes in Cuba while I was sitting in a fucking bakery in Staten Island. So
yeah, a lot of foreign films are
shot domestically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a lot of domestic ones are shot in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. Canada's huge for it too. It's just like The Dark Knight Rises. It's a mix of New York City, Pittsburgh, and I forget where else. London. There's a ton of shit in The Dark Knight Rises in London, but none of it involves gunfire. If they can get away with it, they'll fudge the London scenes here, or they just won't write them to have any gunfire in it. They just do workarounds.
Just make it easier.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever's easiest for them. What's not going to cause them headaches and cost them a ton of money. So, yep.
Well, it's been a pretty damn good show, actually.
I think we had this is going to be our longest show, and I think it was pretty solid. It was great having you on here, man.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I don't get fired for saying something stupid before.
Yes,
We'll see in the coming weeks.
This is totally going to end up mainstream media because there are totally Dan Rather has been watching. He's one of our
Absolutely.
good. Is Dan Rather still alive?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We're totally. It's totally gonna get picked up and taken out of context by Mother Jones too.
Yes. They're one of our #1 viewers.
Yeah, totally. So, Mike, tell people where they can, how they can reach you guys before we close out.
Yep. So you can go to our website, which is The Specialists. That's plural. TheSpecialistsLTD.com. And you can either get our phone number off the website or email us, talk to a sales rep, and tell us what you need. We do not sell to the public. We don't rent to the public unless you're doing a production. So don't waste your own time.
Is your New York office even open to the public?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not really. Like if you ring the buzzer, we're gonna say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And if you don't have a good answer, then you're not getting through the front door. I'll tell you.
But I could totally come up there and visit.
Yeah, I mean, if you message me ahead of time, then absolutely,
All right, I'll see you in a couple hours.
I'll probably fucking be here. I have more shit to do after this ends, so if you can make it here in a couple hours, I'll be here. If you can't make it here by
not gonna happen.
1 p.m. Tomorrow, then I will be in Las Vegas, so you're fucked. But before that, come on over.
But I totally want to come out there and do a video at your place at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be pretty kick-ass. The problem I have is disarming myself when I go into the city. I really don't. That really doesn't sit well with me.
Understandable.
The important thing that you need to have is enough of the. I will pay for some of the breakable glass. The stage glass, if you can, throughout the entire show, you just randomly throw a cup at him or a beer bottle. Just.
If you send me a bottle, one of those breakaway bottles, I will totally pimp the shit out of it and break it over my head on video. Hell, I'll do it. Yeah, I will totally do that. I've always wanted to do that.
Oh,
I've had enough real beer bottles broken over my skull. I'd really kind of like to see how it feels with a fake one.
I'll send OmniFox a whiskey tumbler, and I'll see what I can find for you, and then you both can do it. Awesome. That sounds pretty good to me.
No, you gotta give it to Rusty during one of your videos. Just randomly coming chucked from the camera.
I don't trust him enough to. I don't trust his aim enough.
That's the point.
I don't trust his aim enough to not hit me in the ear or something. And it would be totally accidental, but that would suck, dude.
I mean, generally, the stuff is pretty safe. The reason I cut myself in the head is because I really swung it at my face. It's so. I mean, I can.
Yeah, I was totally expecting you to just hit the side. Oh, you've got a piece right on top of your head too. I could see it glinting in the light.
Oh yeah, there it is. It's I mean, if you look, it's it takes no effort to break whatsoever. You know what I mean? So it's I swung it about 5 times harder than I needed to shatter it. I was just going for dramatic effect, the grand explosion kind of thing. So
right.
Even if you get hit in the ear, it's generally not going to cut you. I mean, you can see how hard I hit, and I only have 2 cuts. That's not terrible. Yeah. So
that's pretty baller, though. I'll tell you what. All right, Omni, where can people get you?
You can reach me on the Twitters at the OmniFox, and then you can also reach me on the Reddits at just OmniFox, or on Gunnet, or I don't know, set up a semaphore flag or something. I don't know.
All right, and you can get me on Twitter at Gun Torture Tests, Facebook Rich from Gun Torture Tests. Rich at GunTortureTest.com, YouTube Gun Torture Test, blah blah blah. You guys know where to fucking find me. Right here. Other than that, we're hoping at some point before the year ends to actually have the iTunes, the podcast actually up and running, so we can actually get some a little bit more activity. Don't get me wrong. I mean, these videos, we're not getting a lot of live views, but they're generating some
500, 600.
Yeah, which is better than most. So I'm pleased with that, but I think it would go over well on iTunes as well. Regardless, Mike, real quick, Bush Hunt, the guy who was asking some questions, says I'm going to save your info. I work for a production company here in Miami. GOV is our biggest client.
Oh, cool.
So there you go. We may have just generated you guys some business. So even if you did show your ass on this podcast, your boss will then turn around and say, but we got business out of it, so fucking kick ass.
So when you email my company, just don't mention the podcast so I don't get fired, but, rent as much shit as you want. That sounds good to me.
All right, guys, thanks for watching, those of you who watched, and if you're watching this tomorrow when it's not live, then thanks for watching, and hopefully soon you'll be able to listen to it on your iPod-like device, or as Ron Swanson calls it, the awesome rectangle. See you next week.